Next news. Breaking news.
Folks, what you're about to see is the sitting president of the United States catching the Federal Reserve chairman in a lie on live camera, exposing a $4 billion construction scandal that would make any Washington swamp creature blush. President Trump just went toe-to-toe with Jerome Powell, and let me tell you, Powell looked like a deer in headlights when Trump pulled out the receipts. But here's where it gets even more explosive. An activist judge is now running interference, blocking a grand jury investigation, and wrapping Powell in what U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro calls, quote, immunity. The question is, will Trump pull the trigger and fire Jerome Powell once and for all? I'm going to tell you why this matters to every single American who's watching right now. You see, the Federal Reserve controls your money. They decide whether your paycheck stretches to the end of the month or leaves you short. They determine if your kids can afford a home or if they're stuck renting forever. And right now, the man that's running that institution is being investigated for what could be the most outrageous government construction boondoggle in American history. We're talking about a building renovation that President Trump says he could have had completed for $25 million. It's now ballooning to nearly $4 billion. That's your tax dollars. That's money that could have gone to veterans, to border security, to fix our crumbling infrastructure. Instead, it's being poured into what Trump himself said might never even open. And when the Department of Justice tries to investigate, an activist judge steps in and shuts it down. See, it's not just about Jerome Powell anymore. It's about whether anyone in Washington be held accountable or whether the deep state protects its own, no matter what. And speaking of accountability and protecting American interests, there's breaking news you need to hear about right now. The White House, they just announced over $30 billion to secure America's critical mineral supply chains, and they named a specific Alaskan project as a key strategic asset for mineral independence. I'm talking about the Palmer Project. And see, I've been to the Vizsla copper drilling site in Canada myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. What's happening right now with the Palmer Project in Alaska is bigger than most people realize. President Trump just unveiled Project Vault, a $12 billion strategic minerals reserve designed to stockpile essential resources and keep America strong. This is the exact kind of America First energy policy that we have been waiting for, and Vizsla Copper is positioned right at the center of it. You can find them trading in the United States under VCUFF and in Canada as VCU.V. Check the exclusive briefing only for Next News viewers. It's linked below to see why this matters for both national security and your portfolio. Let's get back to the Fed showdown, because what Trump just revealed about Powell is stunning. I'm going to tell you what the mainstream media doesn't want you to focus on. Pay attention, because Trump didn't just accuse Powell of incompetence, he confronted him face-to-face about the budget numbers. Trump said the cost went up to $3.1 billion. Powell's response, quote, I haven't heard that from anybody. Then Trump pulled out the receipts, and suddenly Powell's scrambling. Talk about a third building, making excuses. This is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the most powerful financial position in America, and he doesn't even know what his own renovation project costs? We're going to take a look exactly what people are saying about this meltdown. Here's the president himself. Reporter asks, you said the termination of Jerome Powell can't come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him. Here's the president's response.
Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Trump won't hold back his disdain, but getting to the bottom of the probe is proving tougher than expected. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro's team was blocked from Federal Reserve headquarters as the criminal probe into Powell faces setbacks. Trump calls out Jerome Powell to his face in this historic moment that, really just will go down in history.
Went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital plan.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not in.
One of my favorite moments right there, when President Trump pulled that out and Powell just looks at him like a deer in headlights. Kalshi's putting the chances of Trump to fire Jerome Powell this year at 25%. Speculation continues to swirl about Powell's future. Judge Boasberg throws another wrench into the investigation by blocking the grand jury. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Powell, Jerome Powell, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, not you, Jeanine Powell, announced activist Judge Boasberg has blocked a grand jury from investigating the Federal Reserve. As a result, Jerome Powell, just listen to the video.
The DOJ criminal investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Let's watch.
Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Now, the American public is fed up with public monies that seem to go into a black hole, especially in D.C., where no one is held accountable. One of the age-old tools that all prosecutors have to investigate any crime, including cost overruns, is a grand jury subpoena. Today, however, in Washington, an activist judge has taken that tool away from us by inserting himself and preventing the grand jury from even obtaining, let alone hearing evidence. He has neutered the grand jury's ability to investigate crime. As a result, Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity, preventing my office from investigating the Federal Reserve. This is wrong, and it is without legal authority. In June of 2025, Jerome Powell testified before the Senate Banking Committee, making, quote, questionable statements that did not comport with publicly available documents. And that was regarding the atrocious cost overrun of more than $1 billion. I didn't say million, I said billion, in renovations to his headquarters. This from the man who says that he is the steward of our public funds. In November, the United States Attorney's Office began an inquiry. Prosecutors from my office gathered information for months before we served 2 grand jury subpoenas. On December 19th, we sent an email to the Federal Reserve to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. There was no response. On December 29th, we sent an email to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. Again, we were ignored. We, in fact, asked to meet the first week in January. We were ignored. It was at that point that 2 grand jury subpoenas were issued to the Federal Reserve, not even to Jerome Powell. Again, no response, no compliance, but instead a woe is me video by Mr. Powell falsely claiming that he was being threatened with criminal indictment. And claiming victim status, Powell proceeds to call his political friends in D.C. and around the world to gin up support for himself, all the while refusing to produce simple documents. Now enter local District Court Judge James Boasberg, whose written decision on its face makes clear his antipathy toward President Trump and this administration. He quashes both subpoenas, thereby prohibiting us from reviewing any records and precluding us from submitting records to the grand jury. That grand jury, of course, comprised of ordinary people. Ladies and gentlemen, no one is above the law.
No one's above the law, not even if you're in the Federal Reserve. The investigation may be stalled, but Trump isn't backing down from pointing out the incompetence and cost overrun. Here he is with Maria Bartiromo this morning.
It's really more than that. It's more than a criminal probe. It's a criminal probe, I guess, but it's also a probe on incompetence. How do you take a little building? I built a hotel for $201 million that's bigger than that building, down the road. It's a little while ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I built the Trump Hotel, which I sold to Waldorf Astoria. It's a good deal. I built it like around $200 million in construction. They're going to spend maybe $4 billion. And you know what? I'm not sure the thing's ever going to open. You know, I do that stuff very well. I went past the site the other day. I was driving past. They said, take me past the Federal Reserve building. They took me past. There's very little work done inside. Kevin may never get to have the use of that building. And he told me something very interesting. He said, the saddest part of it is they ripped down the most beautiful building of them all. They ripped it down. He said they had boardrooms and various rooms in that building that were the most beautiful in Washington. And they ripped it down. What they've done to that. So it is probably corrupt, but what it really is incompetent. And we have to show the incompetence of that. And he headed the job. He was, you know, this guy, Jerome.
But you want Jay Powell out of the way. Isn't it the easiest way to get him out of the way to end the probe?
Does that mean we stop a probe of a building that I would have done for $25 million that's going to cost maybe $4 billion? Don't you think we have to find out what happened there? You know, we have other jobs like that, like the railroad in California, where it's, 25 times more than it was originally going to cost. And I think they're going to end up abandoning it. Okay, that's Gavin Newsom, or as I call him, Gavin Newsom, who's so bad. But that's the one. But I think the Federal Reserve building is just as bad. And so whether it's incompetence, corruption, or both, I think you have to find out. I really do. I think you have to find out.
So you're not going to drop the probe?
Oh, I'm not playing. I have to find out.
And he said he's not leaving if,
Well, then I'll have to fire him, okay? If he's not leaving on time, I've held back firing him. I've wanted to fire him, but I hate to be controversial, I want to be uncontroversial, but
and you think Kevin Warsh can get confirmed? You think Tom Tillis is going to give you a vote?
Well, we're going to have to find out. He might not, but that's why Tom Tillis is no longer a senator.
Trump will hold back in his disdain. And then we have, I'm sorry, I went too far. Now we're learning that the Fed chair is expected to step down after his term as chair expires and is expected to be replaced with Kevin Warsh. Here's Kevin Hassett.
Jay Powell's going to leave. Maybe he'll just stay on the board, unless this investigation into Jay Powell goes away. So can you really be sure that Kevin Warsh is going to start as chairman of the Fed May 15th?
I'm highly confident that will happen and that we'll work something out with Senator Tillis that satisfies him. And I think the reason we do that is it's so important that such an excellent man get there to the Fed. In terms of Jay Powell, he's really signaled that once there's a confirmed Fed chair that he'll step aside, and that's the appropriate thing for him to do.
And so you're not expecting him to stay on the board?
No, I am not.
Because, have you spoken with Tom Tillis?
I have over the years, but not about this specific matter, yeah.
Okay. In terms of the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve, what are your expectations in terms of lessening?
So here's the bottom line that the establishment's terrified you'll understand. Jerome Powell's done. Kevin Hassett confirmed Powell's expected to step down once Kevin Warsh is confirmed as the new Fed chairman. And if Powell tries to say Trump made it clear in his interview with Maria Bartiromo, quote, then I will have to fire him. Okay? The president said he's held back on firing Powell because he'll want to be, quote, uncontroversial. But that patience has run out. The investigation into the Fed's construction scandal is not going away. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro's team was literally blocked from entering Federal Reserve headquarters. An activist judge named Boasberg has neutered the grand jury. But Trump's not backing down. This is a president who builds skyscrapers, calling out a bureaucrat who can't renovate a building without wasting billions. So, Patriots, what we're witnessing is a president that's doing exactly what he promised. Draining the swamp, exposing the incompetence, and holding the unaccountable accountable. Jerome Powell thought he was untouchable. The Federal Reserve has operated in the shadows for over a century, and now a builder from Queens is shining a spotlight on their $4 billion disaster. So I want to know what you think. Should President Trump just fire Jerome Powell immediately? Drop a yes or no in the comments right now, and tell me why. And since you made it to the end of the video, this is a special message just for you. Not everybody gets to the end, but you made it because you care. And because you care, I built this system. The Raw Feed Text Message Alert System. Text Raw Feed to 844-840-4963. That's how we bypass the algorithm. We get you the news you want when notifications from YouTube don't show up. I will send you a direct message to your phone. I'm not going to spam you. I will be respectful, and I will make sure you get the information you need to make informed decisions. And since you're still here, make sure you are subscribed and you do hit the notification bell, because when Powell officially walks out that door, you're going to want to hear it here first. If you want to show your support for America First journalism, check out the Next News merch shelf below this video and share this report with everybody who needs to see what's really happening at the Federal Reserve. I'm Gary Franchi for the Next News Network. Stay informed and stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.